Sperm donor fees rise as a sperm shortage occurs in the UK. A Belgian priest was arrested after a deadly night of sex and drugs with a cleric. And concussion concerns raised by doctors over the extreme sport called slap fighting. These are the weird stories on Weird AF News, the only daily weird news podcast hosted by a comedian in a closet. There were funky Chinamen in funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up. They were chopping them down. Sperm donor fees rise in the UK as they face a shortage of sperm donors. How about that? Who'd have thought? The UK is having a shortage of wankers? I'm so surprised. Sperm donor compensation in the UK has risen from $35 to a maximum of $45 per clinic visit. The $10 increase comes into effect in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland starting today, October 1st. These aren't dollars, by the way. I'm just calling them dollars. They're UK bucks. Everybody knows UK bucks, right? Egg donor compensation also rises from $7.50 to almost $1,000. Now it says here it is illegal to pay someone to donate their sperm or their eggs in the UK, so the money is to cover expenses such as travel and accommodation. Sperm donation can involve visiting a clinic once a week or 3 to 6 months. This is all because they're claiming there's a shortage of donors. The UK fertility regulator acknowledged a shortage of egg and sperm donors at the current time. It warned that donating was a very complex decision and any child born had the right to contact their biological parents after reaching 18 years old. I'm wondering if that's what's keeping people from donating is they're not being allowed to do it anonymously. If there is a right for the child to contact their biological parents after the age of 18. That just seems like a little bit of a risk. Being contactable is a deal breaker for most people, I'd imagine. You want to do it with the idea that the kid has 2 loving parents taking care of them. You don't want to be on the hook for it later on. Legal obligations thereafter, that can be an issue. Your socks aren't going to come after you for child support if you're just depositing in there. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, that's gross. Of course, some donors don't mind the lack of anonymity or the small fee. One sperm donor named Joseph said he received 35 UK bucks for each clinic trip. And it did not compensate him anywhere near enough for his time and travel, he said, but his motivation was to help people. He says, quote, "Well, I'm a married gay man, and we adopted our son, so we didn't have the normal route that most heterosexual couples will have had into parenting. Going through the adoption process, you meet a lot of straight couples who have had fertility issues. So I wanted to help and give someone a chance to start a family, whether it's someone with fertility problems, a lesbian couple, or a single individual." This is the first time that compensation for sperm and egg donors in England, Wales, and North Ireland has risen since 2011. The Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority, which sets the amount of compensation for such things, said the change was due to inflation being high in recent years, but it warned against donating sperm or eggs simply for the money. Well, you're not really paying enough for that. Some places do. When I was living in New York City, I came across a sperm bank that paid $150, and at the time I was struggling, and some comedians had used this sperm donation spot, and I tried to, but they wouldn't take my juice, man. There was a height cutoff. It was 5'10". I was very insulted by this. Have I told this story already on here? I just thought that was wrong to deny me. They didn't even ask how my credit was. There are things more important than height. They didn't even ask how my credit was. It was terrible, but don't you want to know that? Now, in the UK, it says donors go through rigorous medical screening and must be comfortable with the fact that any children born from their donation can contact them when they turn 18. Yeah, that's going to create a barrier to such things because no one likes surprises showing up at your door. Now, it turns out they're trying to import sperm over there. That's one way to tackle the sperm shortage, they say. Hard to imagine there's a sperm shortage in the world, given how many men are just willing to give it away. In all sorts of situations. I've seen it given away in New York City bathrooms. The HFEA says the majority of imported sperm in the UK comes from sperm banks in the US and Denmark. And probably Nick Cannon, I'd imagine. Come on, guys. They interviewed Nicole, who is the lab manager at the London Sperm Bank. She says the shortage is not due to a lack of applicants in the UK, but the lack in the quality of the applicants. Well, why don't you accept it from short people? Take the juice from the shorties, man. There's a lot of short kings out there that want to participate in this program, but you're not allowing it, I imagine. This height cutoff, man. This is not okay. Just want to breed tall people in the culture? I'll have you know that short people have skills as well. You keep breeding people that are going to dunk, you'll have nobody left to shoot the three, is what I'm saying. The article wraps up by saying it is not possible to donate anonymously over there. All donors are made aware that any child born can contact them once they turn 18. I think that's part of the issue. You might want to think about changing that aspect of it. That's just my opinion. What do you guys think of this situation, my listeners? Is this fair that at the age of 18 you are allowed to contact the sperm donor? Sperm donors aren't being protected from their identity. There's a lot to unpack here. Call the show, 646-450-2012. A priest was arrested after a deadly night of sex and drugs with a cleric. A British clergyman has passed away after a night of sex and narcotics with a Belgian priest who has since been arrested on drug-related charges, according to the Belgian authorities. Wow, rough night at the seminary. Or should I say, seminary? Come on, guys. Got some good jokes here up top. The 69-year-old, who has not yet been named, was spending the evening with his fellow cleric, age 60, at a clergy house in Kalmthout. This is north of Antwerp. When he became unwell, shortly after midnight, the Belgian priest called the emergency services, who were unable to resuscitate his companion. The prosecutor's office said, quote, "It appears that the two individuals had used ecstasy and..." I can't speak today, wow. Let's try this again. Take two. "It appears that the two men had used ecstasy and poppers together and had had sex. 2 ecstasy pills were also found." Wow, these guys pray hard, they play harder. The investigation is ongoing. An autopsy could not immediately provide any conclusive information into the exact cause of the death. The 60-year-old priest was questioned by the investigating judge and placed under arrest. Well, I'll tell you what happened. The 69-year-old had a heart attack. That's what happened. Mixing MDMA and poppers and no doubt Cialis or some ED drug was involved. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the old ticker. Going to be tough to get through a night like that at the age of 69. Probably, that's one way to go out, though. That's a lot of fun. If you're going to go out anyway, you go out that way. It says this cleric here is facing charges of drug trafficking resulting in death. Drug trafficking? They found 2 pills on the scene. That's hardly drug trafficking. Pope Francis was in Belgium over the weekend and met with 17 survivors of clergy sexual abuse suffering from trauma. At the meeting, he said the church would, quote, "offer all the help that we can to aid the victims." And then, coincidentally, this guy passes away in the middle of some sexcapades. This isn't the typical priest sex that you hear about. It sounds totally consenting, which is a step in the right direction, at least. And no children involved, which is good. I don't think this guy should be arrested, to be honest with you. Priests have done much, much worse and gotten off the hook. You know, this is 2 consenting adults, and sadly, one of them was of advanced age, and they were mixing some serious chemicals. My question is, after the priest had passed away, why didn't the cleric just cast a raise dead spell in order to fix the situation? Come on, guys. Dungeons and Dragons references? Not into it?
Is your cold making it hard for you to get to sleep and leading to a bad morning? Switch to Mucinex Night Shift for fast, powerful, nighttime multi-symptom cold and flu relief. Mucinex Night Shift fights your worst nighttime symptoms to help you get to sleep and wake up ready to go. Mucinex Night Shift. It's comeback season. Use as directed.
Let's rock.
Concussion warnings over the extreme sport called slap fighting. You guys familiar with slap fighting? It's a combat sport that has doctors very worried. It's very popular online. Uh, Apparently, the doctors are saying it causes serious brain damage. This is how it works, if you haven't seen it on the TikToks. Competitors face off and take turns to deliver bare, full force, open handed strikes to the cheeks. They continuously slap each other as hard as they can until one of them drops to the ground with what doctors are saying severe brain damage and concussion. I'm surprised to learn that people that do this even have brains, huh? Aren't you surprised? I mean, how do you get a concussion if you don't have a brain? The article says in order for doctors to assess the possible harm in this sport, medics screen videos of tournaments and have now written a warning letter in a leading journal about their findings. Unlike boxing, no headgear is allowed and defenders cannot duck to avoid the blows. Even flinching is banned. Opponents are scored based on the amount of damage they inflict and how well they cope with getting slapped upside the head themselves. The sport is popular in the U.S., but other countries, including the U.K., are in on the action. Next month, Liverpool, in fact, will hold what is being billed as the first ever British heavyweight slap fight competition. And to be honest, I mean, I'm okay with this. These are consenting adults, right? If bearded dudes with restraining orders want to slap the F out of each other, then let them do that. Yeah. I just hope that when alien representatives visit our planet, that we can just kind of hide this stupid crap from them so we don't look as dumb as we really are. You know, you don't want the outside universe seeing this kind of behavior, right? This article says this is not the first warning about the sport, though. The alarm was raised in 2021 after Polish slap fighter Arthur Walczak suffered a brain bleed during a match in which he was knocked out and lost consciousness. Despite hospital treatment, he died weeks later of multiple organ failure linked to the head injury. Well, I didn't hear about this case. This guy died as a result of participating in this extreme, stupid sport. March 2023, retired female fighter Courtney Olsen shared her story of slap fighting with the media. She was struck by competitor Sheena Bathory, and she fell, her eyes visibly rolling back as the crowd gasps. In an interview, said she was concerned about memory lapses both during the match and months after. Am I supposed to feel sorry for this person? I mean, all you have to do is listen to the description of this event, and you know the risks. You don't even have to watch it, but if you watch it, then, I mean, you will definitely think twice if you have half a brain before participating in this. I mean, it just looks ridiculous. So, yeah. I have the smallest violin for anybody who's complaining of CTE after participating in this crap. And when you consider what they're probably getting paid in winnings, if anything at all, I mean, football players are making bazillions for their hits. And I'm not saying that that's the best idea either, but if you want to risk your body for some loot, then there are ways where you can be heavily compensated, but I hardly doubt that the slap fight tournament's paying out very much. Not enough to handle your doctor bills, that's for damn sure. Now, here is some of the data from the doctors who analyzed 78 fights between 56 contestants involving 333 slaps. More than half of the participants, the doctors say, had visible signs of a concussion. Many had signs of impaired movement following a hit or had a blank or vacant stare. Some were knocked down and had trouble getting back up. A very small percentage leaned over after being slapped and kissed the opponent on the mouth, which they believed is a result of CTE as well. I'm just kidding. They didn't do that, but it'd be funny if they did. It says here 4 out of 5 doctors think participating in this sport is pretty bad. The 5th doctor is a Joe Rogan fan. So, come on, I wrote that joke. That's pretty good, right? Let me just say this, as far as extreme sports go, I'm okay with a lot of them, but I'd like to see some extreme sports that are a little safer. Like, how about a bad breath fight, right? Two guys get face to face, and each one takes a turn breathing on the other until one of them gives up from the bad breath smell. That way there's no brain damage. That's a pretty good idea, guys. I got some good ideas. Anyone want to run with this one? Well, hello, my lovely, loyal listeners of the Weird AF News Podcast. This is your buddy Jonesy, host of the show. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Want to let you know that I'm going to be doing the annual AMA, Ask Me Anything, on my Patreon. if you would like to participate in asking me a question on there, please consider joining the Patreon. It is patreon.com/weirdafnews. And you can also go to my website, weirdafnews.com, and click on the Patreon banner. So you can join the Patreon. Ask Jonesy a question. I'll be releasing that video on the Patreon first, and then eventually I'll just put it on YouTube. But I'm only taking questions from the Patreon, the patrons. So if you want to ask me a question, please consider joining. Yeah, I believe you can join for as little as $2 a month, which is like buying Jonesy a half a cup of coffee a month at these Los Angeles coffee prices, I have to tell you. So yeah, I'll be doing that. Any other announcements? Do we need to give thanks and praise? Yeah, just going to give thanks and praise to my listeners because you guys are sticking with me, and I appreciate that. I left the phone number earlier. If you'd like to email me anything, it's funnyjones@gmail.com. Feel free to send me stories that you come across from this week that are weird and that you think might be appropriate for the podcast. I always appreciate that. And then lastly, good luck with your life, man. Say it with me. Good luck with your life, man.